Claude Opus 5 scored a 4 out of 10 on reliability, and that number should stop you cold before you hand it any unsupervised workflow. 2 of its 5 boldest claims fall short when you actually put them to the test. Claude Opus 5 just dropped, and I'm putting its 5 boldest claims through their paces right now to see which ones actually hold up. And the one area where Claude's reputation for careful, connected writing is most at risk is also the one that decides whether it's worth the cost for your research workflow. My name is Brian, and I'm in these tools 12 hours a day, so you don't have to be. Every number in this review traces back to sources both Anthropic and independent researchers actually published. Developers and researchers deciding right now whether to upgrade to Opus 5 need these claims to be real, or they're burning review time on every output. Claim 1 is long-form analysis and summarization. A solo researcher dropping a 50,000-word document into an AI needs the output to actually connect the threads, not just restate paragraphs in a different order. When that fails, you spend an hour verifying a summary that was supposed to save you 3. So does Claude's reputation for careful writing hold up when the documents get long? What I found here was pretty interesting. Community reports score Claude's writing quality at 8.5 versus ChatGPT's 7, and instruction following at 8 versus 7. On long document synthesis, Claude scores 8.5 versus 7.5. The race is closer than the headline suggests, but Claude's prose is genuinely more careful and less likely to pad output just to satisfy the request. Bear in mind these are community-reported scores, not a controlled lab test. Now the gap is real, but it's not huge. A 1 to 1.5 point delta on community scores is meaningful, but it's also subjective. If your long-form task is more about speed than synthesis quality, ChatGPT's more concise defaults might actually serve you better. This win for Claude is most visible on academic and research tasks, where hedge preservation and connected reasoning matter most. Claim 1 delivers. Claude's 8.5 on writing quality versus ChatGPT's 7 is a real gap for research synthesis, and the prose is more connected, less sycophantic, and more willing to push back on a flawed premise. 1 of 1 claims holding up so far. Claim 2 is context window efficiency. A legal team running contract analysis across 300 pages of documents hits ChatGPT's 128K token ceiling and has to chunk the work into multiple sessions, which means lost context and extra cost. Claude's advertised 200K standard window with a 1 million token beta is supposed to eliminate that problem entirely. The question is whether the numbers actually back that up. So here's what I looked at. Claude Pro's standard context is 200K tokens versus ChatGPT Plus at 128K, which is a 56% advantage right there. And in beta, Claude Opus 5 goes to 1 million tokens, more than double GPT-5's 400K max. Community reports score Claude's cost efficiency for long doc tasks at 8 versus 6. These are sourced from multiple independent blogs, so take the exact scores with a grain of salt, but the raw token numbers are published specs. Claim 2 delivers, and this one wasn't even close. A 200K standard window versus 128K, and a beta ceiling that's more than double GPT-5's max, is a real structural advantage for anyone doing document-heavy research. 2 of 2 claims holding up, and the context window gap is the clearest win in the whole report. Claim 3 is reliability, specifically over-engineering and false confidence. A developer asks Opus 5 to rename a variable, and it rewrites 3 files, adds error handling that wasn't requested, and apologizes twice. That's not a productivity tool, that's a liability. When an AI expands scope on simple tasks and is confidently wrong, every output needs a review pass, and that review time adds up fast. What surprised me here was how consistent the community reports are. Over-engineering scores a 4 out of 10 for Opus 5 versus 7.5 for ChatGPT. False confidence scores 5 versus 7. Multiple users describe Opus 5 as, and I'm quoting here, neurotic AF, timid, apologetic, and prone to expanding task scope on simple requests. Anthropic does claim Opus 5 is stronger at self-verification, but that's vendor-stated and needs independent confirmation. Claim 3 falls short. A 4 out of 10 on over-engineering is a clear gap. and the community data on this is pretty consistent across the board. Opus 5 punishes blind trust, and that's a real cost for teams who want hands-off AI. 2 of 3 claims holding up, and this one's the first real crack in the story. So right now, Claude is 2 for 3, but the verbosity test and the code review are still ahead, and those are the 2 dimensions that decide whether the depth advantage is actually usable day to day. If Opus 5's output is too noisy to trust, the context window advantage doesn't matter. Stick around because the next 2 tests could flip your whole read on this model. Claim 4 is output verbosity and signal clarity. A product manager asking Opus 5 for a 3-bullet summary gets back 6 paragraphs of hedged prose, 2 apologies, and a disclaimer. That's not a summary, that's noise. Community users have started calling this Claude slop, and if Opus 5 is genuinely more verbose than its predecessor Opus 4.8, that's a regression, not a feature. I looked at the community data and it's pretty consistent. Default output length scores 4.5 for Opus 5 versus 7.5 for Opus 4.8. Hedging and apologies score 3.5 versus 7. Signal clarity scores 4 versus 7. Every single subdimension here goes against Opus 5, and the deltas are not small, they're in the 3 to 3.5 point range. These are community-reported scores, so the exact numbers are subjective, but the direction is really consistent. Claim 4 falls short, and this one stings because it's a regression from Opus 4.8. A 3.5 out of 10 on hedging and apologies is the lowest score in the whole report. So now we're at 2 of 4 claims holding up, and the pattern is getting clear. Claude wins on depth, loses on conciseness. Claim 5 is code review, specifically adversarial testing and false positives. A dev team using Opus 5 for automated code review needs it to catch real bugs, not drown the pull request in nitpicks. If the model generates 4 times more noise than the baseline, engineers stop reading the comments, and the whole review process breaks down. The CodeRabbit numbers here are the most concrete in the whole report, so I looked at the CodeRabbit testing data, and it's a mixed picture. Opus 5 on the highest effort setting scores 39.3% on actionable comment precision versus the production baseline's 35.2%, which is a win. But it only catches 55.2% of known issues versus 61.1% for the baseline, and it generates roughly 4 times as many nitpicks. Full stream precision drops to 28.6% versus 32.8%. More precise on individual comments, but noisier overall. And this is where it genuinely depends on your use case. If you're running adversarial security reviews where you want every possible flag surfaced, the 39.3% precision on actionable comments is actually useful. But if you're doing routine pull request reviews on a fast-moving team, 4 times the nitpick volume will kill developer trust in the tool pretty fast. The right answer here really does depend on what kind of code review you're running. Claim 5 is partially true. The data splits down the middle, more precise on individual comments, fewer known issues caught, and 4 times the nitpick noise. Call it a tie, so the final tally is 2 of 5 claims fully holding up, 1 partially true. Okay, so here's where Claude genuinely shines. Long-form synthesis and writing quality, where it scores 8.5 versus ChatGPT's 7, and the prose is more connected and less sycophantic. The context window is a real structural win. 200K standard, 1 million in beta, more than double GPT-5's max. And Anthropic claims stronger self-verification pipelines, which is worth watching as independent data comes in. Now, where Claude falls short, over-engineering is a real problem, scoring a 4 out of 10, with users reporting Opus 5 expands task scope on simple requests and requires active review on every output. The verbosity regression from Opus 4.8 is bad, hedging and apologies score just 3.5. And in code review, Opus 5 generates roughly 4 times more nitpicks than the production baseline, which tanks full stream precision to 28.6%. I went in expecting a more balanced scorecard, but 2 of 5 claims hold up fully and 1 splits. That 4 out of 10 on reliability is the number that decides this. Worth it if you're doing deep document research or synthesis on long files, and you'll review the output anyway. Skip it if you need concise, hands-off AI for everyday tasks, because the verbosity and over-engineering will cost you more time than the context window saves. If you want to see how Claude Code stacks up against a free local alternative, I ran exactly that comparison. In Ultima versus Claude Code, can free local keep up? And the cost gap is way bigger than I thought. That video is right up next.